In the article Talmud Bavli English edition, we are holding on 7A1. Um, he recited Carmelit at the two dots. So we saw at Tosefta last time we learned, and the Braita there was describing the four Rishiot of Shabbat, the four domains of Shabbat. And in describing one of them, it was describing the Carmelit. The Carmelit was originally, the Oraita level, it is a Makom Patur. It's not a Rishus Rabbim, it's not a Rishus Yachid. But the Chacham said, since it has some characteristics of Rishut Rabbim, we're going to give it a Rishut Rabbim Dirabanan. And that's what it's called, a Carmelit. So while we were learning it, it gave us a list. And the list of the Carmelit, you can see it back on 6A3, Aval Yam, the sea, Uvika, and the area of the open fields, the Istavanit, and the bench area, the HaKarmelit, and the Carmelit, these are the Carmelites. So in the list of explaining what a Carmelit is, it uses the Lashon of a Carmelit. So now that's where Argamara picks up, and Argamara says, what do you mean by defining a Carmelit by calling it a Carmelit? Carmelit, Autokule Nami Lav Carmelit. You know what? All these other areas are not a Carmelit. That you're saying this one is, all of them are a Carmelit. That was the list of the Carmelites. So Kiat, Ravdimi, Rav Yochanan, Ravdimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Babel. He said in the name of Yochanan, Lai Nitzercha. The Karens of it, Asmucha Shazar is needed for the nook adjacent to the Shuzar Rabbim. If you have the article, you can see in the note 10 two pictures. You can see that the nook means in picture number 1 and in note 11, you have all these houses that right next to the Rishut Rabim, but there's one house that's built a little recessed in. So there's a little space in front of that house that is called the Karen Zavit. Now, what happens here? People are walking in Rishut Rabim, they want to walk straight. This nook is not in the Rishut Rabim, but it's right off. It's adjacent to the Rishut Rabim. So this is what the Tosefta was saying when it said Carmelit, to say this is the Carmelit that we're talking about. This nook. Now, some don't want to learn it this way because Lamaisa, that nook in the first picture has 3 walls, and the 3 houses around it have 3 walls. And therefore, according to Rashi, perhaps it's already a Rishut Yahid. The Rambam says you need 4 walls, but maybe Rashi said it says 3 walls. So they want someone to say that if Rashi never meant the 3 walls that open to Rishut Rabbim is the Rishut Yahid. But others want to learn the other way. You take a look at the second picture. The house is built in a diamond shape. Every other house is square, and that house is built in a diamond shape. So you have these nooks in between the houses over there. Now there's no 3 walls there. So this was the Carmelit that they were talking about. Why? Because it's so close to Rishut Rabim, and that's why they instituted the Carmelit in the first place, because it looks so much like a Rishut Rabim. And says the Gemara, the Afagav, the Zminon, the Dochke Rabim, and although sometimes people push their way into this area and enter it because too much traffic or move to the side, but since it's not really part of the Rishut Rabim, because it's not convenient to use, because I cannot walk straight, right? Rishut Rabim means I'm walking straight in the Rishut Rabim, and here I have to go over to the side, I go into this area, and then I have to come back out of it. So Ki Carmel is dummy. Therefore, it is a Carmelit. And so when that Tosefta was saying this list, it called this a Carmelit, and this was the whole idea why the Chachamim put the Carmelit in the first place, because it looks too much like a Shurabim, too close to Shurabim. Therefore, they made it a Shurabim de Rabbanan. Okay, so now continues. The Gemara quotes another ruling in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Kiat Rav Dim Yom Rabbi Yochanan Bein Ha'amudin Nidon Ke Carmelis. My Tama Avagav the Darsley Berabim Kiwan Deloy Mistagay Lahu Behedya Ke Carmelis Damya. So you have here an opinion in Rav Dim, he says in the name of Yochanan. Let's say I have a real Rishut Rabim, okay, and I have pillars in between the Rishut Rabim. So if you want to take a look, if you have the art scroll, you can take a look in note 17. There's a picture there. Don't worry about the 16 right now. But just look at the public domain, and into those little circles, those are the pillars. Those are the amudim. Okay, so these amudim, they're made in such a way that when you walk through Shul Rabim, they don't let you walk straight through. And as such, says Rav Dimi, they're going to be considered a Carmelit because a Rishon Rabim has unimpeded traffic. If you have traffic being impeded by these pillars, then it downgrades it to a Carmelit. Okay, that was the opinion of Rav Dimi. Amr Rav Zeir, Amr Rav Yehuda, Itztaba Shalifnei Amudim Nidon Ke Carmelis. Now, in front of these pillars, there was a bench area. So they don't show you in the picture, but you can imagine. In front of the pillars, they put bench areas. So some explained that, they had a marketplace in the public domain. The pillars were used to put up some of the clothing and wares, whatever they're selling on. And they also had a bench in the front of it to put other wares that need to stand, and they put it on those stuff to sell. So he's saying, listen, the itztaba, the bench that's in front of the amudim, nidon ke carmelis. They are definitely a carmelis, right? They would have to have the ramifications of the specifications of a carmelis, right? Which has to be a 4x4, and since it's in a reshut rabim, it would have to be above 3 tvachim, right? It would have to be above 3 tvachim. Otherwise, cannot be a carmelis. Okay, now Laman the Amr ben Amudim, according to according to Rabbi Dimi, said in Rabbi Yochanan that between the pillars is a carmelis, kol shekain itztaba. So definitely in itztaba, bench area is going to be considered a carmelit. Okay. Kol shekain itztaba. But Laman the Amr itztaba, but according says that the one who holds that the bench is a carmelit, itztaba hu d'lo tashmitei. It's because the block, that bench, is not convenient by the public. But between the pillars, it's not so bad. It's just pillars. You walk around them. So it's not really impeding traffic. But the bench does impede traffic. Between the pillars, people go through it. It's like a reshut harabim. Okay? So here we have now machloket. Rav Dimi and the Gemara have a machloket of between the pillars. According to Rav Dimi, it is a requirement between the pillars. And according to Rav Zera, and perhaps Rav Zera, Bein Amudim, not necessarily karmet. It can remain a reshut harabim. Halakha l'ma'aseh, there's actually a machloket rishonim, machloket poskim, of how do you see this? How do you view these bein ha'amudim and the reshut harabim? So I'm just going to read the halakha so we know what we're talking about. Okay, it says over here bein ha'amudim. Ben hamudim yesh omrim shohoel v'rabim dorsim b'nehen hen harei hen reshut rabim. Since people walk through it easily, it's considered reshut ha-rabim. Who is this opinion? Here he brings that this is the Rambam. This is also Tosfot's opinion. This is also brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. This Mishnah Berurah says is the Shulchan Aruch's opinion. But yesh omrim shedina ke karmelit av sherabim dorsim b'nehen kivan she'en he'eluch sham noach kolkach. Since it's not straight, it's not so easy to maneuver. So others hold it is a carmelit. So it's a machloket, just like the machloket Gemara. It's machloket poskim. This is the opinion of the Maggid Mishnah, the name of the Rashba. They say this is also in the name of the Rosh. Mishnah Berurah brings it down by Rov Poskim. What about the itztava? The itztava shnefei ha'omidim reshut harabim v'tanu b'hem hatagarim sachora v'hi rechova arba v'gavoa mishlosha v'ad asara dini ke carmelis. If it is 3 to 10, 3 to 10, 3 to under 10, tachim off the ground, and it has a 4x4, it's a carmelit. But if it's between 3 and 10, but it's less than 3x3, then it's a makom patur. But if it's not more than 3 up, 3 tachim off the ground, then it's parashut rabim. And if it's above 10 and it has a 4x4, then it becomes the yachid. So the itztava depends on the dimensions of it that's found in the reshut harabim. Okay, continues now the Gemara. The Gemara says, Amar Rabba Bar Shila Amar Hizda Levena Zekufa Bereshut Rabim Vezarak Vetach Mefanea Hayat. Okay, so take a little look in the in note 19 in the art scroll in 7A-2. There is a picture of a Talmudical brick. Okay, the brick, and this is the way it's showing you. That's the way it stood there. That's the way it stands in that area. And its height varies, but it's 3 tvachim long and 3 tvachim wide. And the height varies from brick to brick. The case over here is, now by the way, this is the way Rashi explained it. I believe Tosfot, maybe the Me'ini, they want to hold of the brick as a 4x4. Okay? But we're going to learn it like Rashi. And someone throws, it's going to see it's a sticky fig to the face of the brick. So the side to the height side, to the side that is facing the street. Okay? Hayab. So he's standing 4 amot away in the Reshut Rabim, and he throws it and sticks to the face of the brick. We're saying he effected a transfer, right? He did an akira from where he was, and he threw it, and it got stuck to the side of the wall, and it has now a hanocha, and therefore the person will be hayab. Why? Because he's in the airspace of the Reshut Rabim. Anything in the airspace of the Reshut Rabim is a Reshut Rabim. Al Gaba, if he threw it and it landed on top of the brick, so you see the top of the brick, and the brick only has a 3x3 tavach, right? So it's not cannot be Reshut Yachid. It cannot be a carmelit. A 3x3 is a makom patur. So then he will be patur. Right? So it'll be patur. And Oma Abai Marava Daman Tarvayu, the who Shigavoa Shilosha, the Lord that say Larabim. This idea that what's it called? Your potter, when you throw it on top of the brick, because it's a makom batur, that's because it's at least 3 tfachim off the ground. Because anything within 3 tfachim of the ground is considered as part of the ground, and you will be chayav, right? Here, when it's above 3 tfachim, the people don't walk there. People don't go there so easily. So therefore, it has its own reshut, makom patur. Therefore, you're potter. His maybe he gain, but even though it's true that something that's 3 tfachim to the ground is considered part of the ground, but if it's an area where there's bramble or thorn bushes where people don't walk, even though it's not 3 tvachim over the ground, still it'd be patur because it's like a makom patur because nobody goes there. Chia bar Rav Amar, I feel his maybe he can even brambles and thorn bushes, people walk there. Doesn't matter. So as long as they're 3 tvachim from the ground, they're going to be considered part of the ground. But if it's excrement, then nobody walks there, and therefore, even if it's less than 3 tvachim and it landed there, it won't be hayab. But Rav Ashi Amar, no, I feel Torah even 3, because according to Rav Ashi, as long as something is within 3 tvachim of the ground, it would be considered part of the ground. That's the way Rav Ashi learns. And what's the psak halacha for us? Psak halacha, let's just read it. Psak halacha is as follows. 12 davar. Anything. Shehu bereshut rabim. אם אין הגבוה 3 טווחים, אפילו הם קוצים או צואה, שאין רבים דורסים עליהם, חשובים כקרקע, והרי הוא ברשות הרבים. Everything that's within 3 טווחים of the ground it's considered part of the ground. Doesn't matter if anyone walks on it, doesn't walk on it, will go there, won't go there. If it's above 3 tvachim, and it's between 3 and 9, if it's between 3 and 9, right? And then it has a 4x4, it's a carmelit. So that's the way the halacha is. Okay. All right. Let's continue in the Gemara. Amar Rabba Debei Rab Shila. Yata Rab Dimi Om Rabbi Yochanan. And Carmelit Pechuta Mi-Arba. A Carmelit needs to have a 4x4. That's part of the definition of a Carmelit. It has 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim, which means 16 inches by 16 inches minimum. If you don't have that, you don't have a Carmelit. I'm Rav Sheshin. Rav Sheshin added on. V'tofeses on Asara. And it goes until 10. And it reaches to a height of 10. V'tofeset, and it grabs on ad Asara, till 10. My v'tofes Asara. What does it mean? Gemara wants to know it reaches until 10. Does it mean in order to be a carmelit, you have to have 10 tefachim wall? If you don't have a 10 tefachim wall, it's not a carmelit? Below? Amar, we know that not to be true. If it has a 10 tefachim wall, it's going to be considered Reshut Yachid. But let's just play along with the Gemara. If it doesn't have 10 tefachim walls, it's not a carmelit. Bayin shein mitoch asara v'kriyo mashlimu la'asara mutal tatlo b'kuloi al gagai mutal tatlo b'kuloi v'taychai em tatlim ba'elo arba amot. Okay, hey, listen to this interesting case. The guy has a house. The house has walls. The inside of the house is only 9 tefachim. The roof adds another tefach. So says the Gemara, the halacha is as follows: on top of the roof is going to be considered at a Reshut Yachid, because remember, you have 10 tefachim walls, including the roof is a wall. And the wall, once you have a 10 tefach wall, the wall is that the wall continues to go up to the Rikiah, up to the Shemaim. And therefore, now you have a platform that's at least 4x4, and you have walls up to Shemaim, and therefore, it is a Reshut Yachid. But inside the house, says the Gemara, you don't have 10 tefachim wall. It's not going to be a Reshut Yachid. What is it going to be? It's going to be a carmelit. So you see here, you don't need 10 tefachim walls to be a carmelit. 9 tefachim wall is a carmelit. Therefore, you can't carry inside the house. We'll tell you how to fix that house in a moment. So what does it mean? It reaches only up to 10. The height of 10 tefachim, up to the height of 10 tefachim, could be a carmelit. But above the 10 tvachim area, it is not a carmelit. What happens is, just like in the Reshut Rabim, we'll see this in a moment, just like in Reshut Rabim, the Reshut Rabim is only 10 tvachim high. Above 10 tvachim is going to be a makom patur. 10 tvachim, to put it in our measurements, 40 inches. 40 inches from the ground up is considered a Reshut Rabim. Above that, it's going to be a makom patur. Okay? Same thing with the carmelit. You have a carmelit, it's only 40 inches from the ground. 40 inches from the ground. Once you're above 40 inches from the ground, it's makom patur. Amar le Shmuel le Rav Yehuda. Similar to what Shmuel said to Rav Yehuda. Shenina, sharp one. Lo teheve bimile de shavtat l'mamasadat. Don't talk about stuff that are above 10 tefachim, 40 inches from the ground. Meaning it doesn't have the same status as the karmos or Reshut Rabim. You cannot say Reshut Yachid is not above 10. The halakha is different from Reshut Yachid than from Reshut Rabim and Carmelit. But Reshut Yachid, once I've established 10 tefachim walls and I have a 4x4 area, the Reshut Yachid goes up all the way to Shemayim. Okay? So therefore, even if I have a house, and I have a roof, and I go on top of the roof, and I put this huge beam, and I have a basket on top of it, and then someone outside takes a bowl or whatever it is, and he's in the shut beam, and he throws it into that basket all the way on the top, it's still considered shut yachid, because shut yachid goes all the way up to Shemaim. So he'll be hayav, because he did hotzah from shut beam to shut yachid. So it cannot be he's talking about shut yachid. It goes up to the Rikiya, up to Shemaim. The end shut beam, the malam asara. The shut beam cannot be further than 10 tvachim from the ground. But that matnitani, that's a Mishnah. The Tran, someone threw it and it got stuck onto the wall of the shut beam wall. If it's above 10 tvachim from the ground, it's as if he threw it into the air and he's patur because it's in the makom patur. But if it's on the bottom, it's in the 40 inches from the ground, then it's as if it fell on the ground, and he'll be hayav because he did a transfer of 4 tvachim. Okay, so it depends where it fell onto the ground. If it fell onto the ground or not. So something within 10 tvachim from the ground is considered within the ground, even though it's on the wall of the it's on the wall of the shut beam. It's like in the airspace, but the airspace is considered part of the ground, and therefore it'd be hayav. But if you threw it above 10, it's in the makom patur, and therefore he'll be patur. So that's the Mishnah that taught us this. Ela al karmelit. Rather, Shmuel said to Yehuda about a karmelit. That what? The karmelit is like a shut beam. It's only within 10 tachim of the ground. Once you're above 10 tachim from the ground, so then technically there is no issue of carrying or the like. So I don't know how you put this into practice, but if a person is able to levitate himself or levitate something and do it above the 40-inch mark, right? Right? He's not doing any carrying because there's no carrying in the makom patur above the 40-inch mark. Now, v'akila barabanan, when the Rabbanan made the karmelit, they made kulas to it. Mekule reshut yachid umekule reshut rabim. They use the leniencies of reshut yachid and the leniencies of the reshut rabim. What's a kula reshut yachid? The kula reshut yachid, the ikam makom arba huda vekarmelit. V'ilo makom patur ba'almahu. They said, listen, the minimum area you need for reshut yachid is a 4x4, right? So we're going to use the same thing when it comes to the karmelit. Anything less than a 4x4 is going to be considered still a makom patur and does not become into a karmelit. And from the leniency of the Rabim, that up to 10 tvachim is a karmelit. Once it's above 10 tvachim, it's no longer in the karmelit, it's a makom patur, like the reshut harabim. Okay? Now, just to explain one last piece, Gufa, we saw above, Amar Gido, Amar Chia, Bar Yosef, Amar Rav, if a house doesn't have 10 tvachim inside the house, only has 9, but the roof makes it 10. You can carry on the roof because the walls halachically is considered going up to the rikiya, and therefore he has the shut yachid. And inside you can only carry 4 amot because it's a karmelit. It doesn't have 10 tvachim wall inside. So what's the eitzah? He should make a carving into the floor. You should dig down a tefach, the size of a 4x4, and now he has inside the house a 4x4 area that is 10. Now, mutar letaltel bekulo. Now he can carry the entire house, even in the place where he didn't dig down. My tama. What's the reason? If I have cracks in the wall of my house, right? Is it shut yachid or shut rabim? What's the status of it? Where it says chorei shut yachid is like a shut yachid. The holes in the shut yachid is like part of the shut yachid. So therefore, I have a shut yachid. I have a 4x4 area in the house that's 10 tvachim and it has walls on the sides of it, not directly to it. There is a question from the Farshim, how close does the walls have to be to that 4x4 area that I dig? To compare it to sukkah, and it has to be within 3 tvachim from the wall. Others say no, it can be in the middle, it can be anywhere. Maybe we don't compare Shabbos to Sukkah and Sukkah to Shabbos. And once I have this 4x4 area of 10 tachim, the whole house, everything that's 9 tachim, is considered the holes of my 10 tafach house. Therefore, I can carry everywhere. Okay. And now we're going to see this Gemara. The Itman, I was going to state it. The halls of Yachid is like Reshut Yachid. Chorei Reshut Rabim, but the halls of Reshut Rabim, Abaye or Mishmachoket. Abaye or Reshut Rabim Damu. It's like the Reshut Rabim. Rav Amar, left Reshut Damu. And Rabbi says no, it's not. It's not Reshut Rabim. Rather, it depends on where it is, what it is. The measurements, maybe a Makom Patur, maybe a Carmelis, it depends on the measurement. Whereas a Abaya holds, it's strictly a Reshut Rabim. So Amar Le Rav Abaya, he's going to challenge him. Ledidach, the Amar Reshut Rabim, Reshut Rabim Damu. If you hold that the holes of Reshut Rabim is like Reshut Rabim, so Maishna Maha, the Chat Rav Dimi Rav Yochanan, by Nitzach El Keren Zavas Tuch Reshut Rabim. You remember that the first thing that we learned today was why did it say Carmelit in the Tosefta? Oh, Carmelit, it is about that nook, that adjacent nook. And that's the Carmelit. 1 second. Why is that a Carmelit? If that's considered, if you say holes of a Reshut Rabim is like the Reshut Rabim, then that adjacent part, that nook, should also be the Reshut Rabim. So, Abaye says, no, it's a difference. It depends. That nook is not very usable, so therefore it's a Carmelit. But other holes is very usable, therefore it is a Reshut Rabim. It depends on the usage of that hole. So now another way, another proof we're trying to bring that the holes in the Reshut Rabim is not considered Reshut Rabim. We're trying to go against Abaye. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. Hazorek arba amot bekotel. Someone throw something on the wall. If you threw it above 10, it is patur because it's a makom patur. If you threw it and it got stuck to the side of the wall where it is 10 tefachim from the ground, within 10 tefachim in the ground, so then he's chayav because he threw it in the ground space. And when we explain the Mishnah, we said, what does it mean? He threw it on the ground, but it didn't rest. Yochanan did rest, because what's the case? We're talking about a fat and sticky fig. So since a fat and sticky fig can get stuck to the side of the wall, and it's within 10 tefachim, that's how it can be hayav if it's within 10 tefachim. Now, if you held like Abaye, that the holes of Reshut Rabim is like a Reshut Rabim, so just give the case that there was a hole there, and it fell into the hole of the wall. Why have to teach the case about a fig? Teach it about a case of a pebble or a small object that came to rest in a hole in the wall. So Abaye gives now 2 answers. Sometimes Abaye answers the question as follows. It's hard to teach you about a case of a pebble or a small object that goes because they usually bounce back rather than falling into the crack, right? So it's better to explain it with the plum fig, because otherwise, if it bounces back, it doesn't fall with exactly 4 amot away. It comes back closer. Zminon mishanale, and sometimes the answer is as follows: Bekota de led behor. We're dealing with a wall that has no hole, right? Memai. From where do we see this? Miktani Reisha. The top case, you said, if it fell on the makom patur, it's the makom patur. But a second, why is it makom patur? Maybe there's a hole there. It fell into the wall. And if it fell into the wall, then maybe it's a Reshut Yachid. Right? If it has a 4x4 area, so maybe it's Hayab. And if you should say that the crevice is less than 4x4, and maybe that's why it's a makom patur and therefore it's patur. Someone threw an object above 10 and it went and landed in a small crevice. It's actually a machoket Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan. The Rabbi Meir is savar chaykakin lahashlim. The Rabbanan savar ein chaykakin lahashlim. Right? You have a whole different machloket. if you take a look in page 7B3 on note 26, it talks about the case of a mezuzah. So we know that halacha is a mezuzah has to be in a wall, in a door that has 10 tvachim high by 4 tvachim wide. So it has to be a minimum door of 40 inches by 16 inches. But if a guy had an arch door, and the arch was in the 10 tvachim, so there's really no door frame that is 10 tvachim high, because it's an arched on the top. According to Meir, chayav mezuzah, because you cut it open and you make it as if there's an actual door frame there. And the Rabbanan say no. So the same thing here. If it fell on the top above 10 tvachim, right? Why you say it's makom patur? Maybe there's a hole there, and maybe you could go like a Meir and make the hole bigger, cut it open, and now you have a 4x4. So shut So the Bai therefore concluded our case in the Mishnah is where there is no hole, because otherwise we're dealing with all these different measurements and get into Machoket, the Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan. Shema Mina, Rabbi Yochanan was forced to explain the Mishnah about a fig, because otherwise you're dealing with other factors, crevice, is it the hole, is it not the hole? Halacha l'maaseh, what is the story with the Chorei Reshut Yachid and Chorei Reshut Rabim? With the holes in the Reshut Yachid and the holes in the Reshut Harabim. So let's look at the halacha Rabotai. Okay. Here we go. Chorim shebikotlei Reshut Yachid, shekalpei Reshut Yachid, hem Reshut Hayachid. They're considered Reshut Hayachid. Right? So any hole that's within next to the Reshut Yachid, from the Reshut Yachid side, is considered Reshut Yachid. There are other questions if it's below 10, right? Below the Reshut Yachid, or above, is there Reshut Yachid or not? There are those poskim who say any holes that face Reshut Yachid is considered Reshut Hayachid. Chorem Reshut Rabim, little difference. Chorem shebekotelim kafei Reshut Rabim. Im hem gevohim alam asara, enam keshut Rabim, elo nodanim lefi midodatehem. You have to take a look at their sizes. So it's like Rava and not like Abaya. Abaya held everything is Reshut Rabim. And Rava said, no, it depends on the sizes. Kesa. Im yesh beim arba l'arba. If it has a 4x4, harei hem Reshut Yachid. If it doesn't have 4x4, harei hem makom patur. If it's not above 10, im hem rochavim al ba'al rabba, harei hem karmelit. V'im ein hem rochavim al rabba, harei hem makom patur. But who shehem givor shlosha? This is at least if they're above 3 tvachim from the ground. Anything that's within 3 is considered part of the Reshut Harabim. Reshut Yachid, Ola ad l'rakia, that we already saw. Chokin lahashlim ala abar tvachim. Kol davar Reshut Rabim shegavo masara memala. Im hu rachav abar rabba harei Reshut Yachid. V'im ein hu rachav abar rabba harei makom patur. ואפילו יש פה מקום לחוק להשלימה לארבעה, כגון שיעמוד הסמך לכותב ממש, בכל מקום אין אומרים שחוקים להשלים. We don't use the halakhic principle of cutting it out, like Rabbi Meir, and therefore, if it doesn't have a 4x4, it's not going to be a Reshut Hayachid. Okay, so many dinim today we saw in the Reshut Rabim Reshut Yachid. Next time, we continue in this parak of Yitziot HaShabbat.
Page.
We ended off on page 7B3. 7B3. Okay. Shavua tov v'hatzlacha.